Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Project Support Workshop. My name is Kayla Carr, and I am the Grants and Community Engagement Coordinator here at GCAC. Today, we're going to be going over the Project Support Program. This program provides support for a broad range of arts and cultural projects, including events, festivals, and series within the City of Columbus. Starting in 2024, project support became no longer open to individual artists. So if this sounds like you should head over to artist projects instead. With artist projects, individual artists and groups of artists can apply without the requirement of a nonprofit serving as a fiscal sponsor. Project support is only open to 501c3 nonprofit organizations with a primary mission in arts and culture, and we cannot support individuals or for-profit businesses through this program. So at the beginning of all of our workshops, we always talk about how GCAC is funded. We're always transparent about this because it does impact some of our eligibility criteria for our grants, and it also does come from taxpayer dollars. It is public information, and you're welcome to explain this to folks who may have questions about where GCAC gets its funding. GCAC is committed to supporting the sector to its full potential, but grant amounts for the upcoming cycle will be lower than last year. If revenues exceed projections, we will notify grantees about any additional support that could be allocated later in this year. The first bullet point you'll see here is our City of Columbus hotel/motel excise tax. This is also known as the bed tax, and this has been around since the 1970s and is one of the biggest and best practices in the country as far as arts funding goes. In 2019, the Columbus Facilities Stabilization Fund, also known as the ticket fee, was implemented. We had two different avenues for this funding, one being from the main ticket fee and the other from Nationwide Arena. So for example, any tickets sold, whether it was a concert or a Blue Jackets game, Nationwide got to keep 80% for their facility upkeep, and then GCAC got that remaining 20%. We then take that 20% and we put it towards purposes like capital expenses for our cultural institutions, public art, and grants like project support. In July of 2019, the City of Columbus Creation, Innovation, and Inclusion Fund came in with a direct allocation for grant funding. So let's get started. This is the homepage of our website, which you can find at gcac.org. At the top, you will see a link to funding for artists and funding for organizations. The GCAC calendar is also at the top right of the page, and you can click here to see important dates like grant deadlines and workshops. Whenever you're seeking out information about any of our available programs, we always recommend to start with the guidelines first. So you'll head over to our website, look for organizations at the top of the page, click on that, and select funding for organizations from the drop-down menu. This is what the drop-down menu will look like once you click on for organizations. 2026 guidelines for organizational funding opportunities will be added here under grants and funding. Other helpful resources on this drop-down menu include links to workshops and events, studios and spaces, the application portal, and opportunities for artists. So if you know of a job opening, a board opportunity, or maybe a call for artists, you can submit that here and we'll post it to our website. Once you've clicked on grants and funding, this is what you'll see. This page is a great way to look through each organizational program if you're in the market for a specific funding opportunity. Click on the title of a program to see a summarized description. So here's what the summary will look like once you've clicked on it. You'll have the grant's purpose, who the grant is open to, the award amount, the evaluation and process for next steps, and then also the important deadlines. You can click on full details, or you can also download a PDF of the guidelines. For the purpose of this workshop, let's go ahead and click on full details. And then here's the top of the official 2026 project support guidelines. The black bar at the top includes the same high-level description of the program that you saw in the summary. And then staff contact information is listed on the left of each program. The application portal is linked in that bronze-colored button up at the top right. And there are multiple sections to expand and read through as you go through the guidelines. It's important to read through them entirely before you begin working on your application. So let's start with eligibility. This is who is eligible to apply for project support. We are looking for nonprofits. That's a registered 501c3 organization with a primary mission in arts and culture. And nonprofits for 2026 must also be based in Franklin County and have 75% of their programming within the city of Columbus. We may also accept applications from nonprofits with a slightly different primary focus, so long as there is a clear, ongoing, comprehensive arts program. So Equitas Health, for example, they are a local nonprofit, but their mission does lie within healthcare. Hypothetically, if they ran an ongoing arts program, like a gallery or a music series as part of a wellness initiative, they would be able to email us for pre-approval. Please reach out to me or grants@gcac.org if this sounds like you. Keep in mind that GCAC does need to hold grant dollars for the arts specifically, so it is a bit harder to get pre-approval as a non-arts organization. In past years, individual artists were eligible to apply for project support with a fiscal sponsor. However, that is no longer the case. Please see the program Artist Projects if you are an individual looking for larger project funding. We'll also note that most projects that come in through project support will receive a partial award of $3,000 to $8,000. Most projects will not be fully funded, and applicants should expect to secure additional funding outside of GCAC. Actual amounts received will be based on the project budget and the panel's score. And if your organization receives general or operating support, you are not eligible for this program. And eligibility in terms of what kind of projects we're looking for, the biggest question we receive is what types of projects can we fund? So not everything is going to fit into project support criteria. We are primarily looking for events, festivals, and series, as noted in the grant's title. Examples can include performances, exhibits, screenings, readings, arts festivals, and more. So if we take a look at the program Funds for Artists, that is a grant dedicated to individual artists who are looking to make new art, grow their skills, and market to a broader audience. That is a personal supply grant, and expenses are related to the individual's needs rather than a project. Project support is truly for the broad public to be able to attend the event and interact with the art you're making. So as an applicant, you should be looking at things from an audience perspective. Who's going to be able to enjoy these events and the art you're making? And when you write your application, you'll be writing as if the person reading knows nothing about the event or the organization itself. At least 75% of your proposed activities must take place within the city of Columbus. And then artists must be hired through this program. We expect artists working on these projects to be fairly compensated. If your organization has a larger budget, we expect you to be paying artists a respectable, livable wage. And if you're a smaller organization, maybe this looks more like a stipend for your artists. Regardless, relative to your budget, we should see some financial allocation to artists in there. Your request cannot be solely for the creation of art without a public event, performance, or exhibit. So projects should be open and promoted to the general public. Events can be free or ticketed. And when we say general public, we mean not just friends and family members, but specifically anyone in the community can attend. It should be very clear in your marketing that it's open to everyone. And then lastly, your project does not have to be just one singular event. You can package multiple projects into one application and include any events or activities taking place between June of this year and June or July, give or take, 2027. Because we do have limited funding, the GCAC Board of Trustees has directed us to focus in on specifics as to where our grant dollars go. So here's a list of what we do not fund. That is no galas or solely fundraising events. If your event has a raffle or happens to raise a bit of money, that is okay. It should just not be clearly advertised as a fundraiser and or benefit event. So you can still fundraise yourself, but GCAC dollars cannot be used on that specific event. We also do not fund solely competitions or award shows, including residencies. So if it's a performance that was a result of someone winning a competition, that is okay, so long as it is a large public event and the performance is what is highlighted in your application rather than the initial competition itself. So if it's just a day of juried music or maybe like a battle of the bands or something like that, it would not be eligible. We also do not fund public art through project support, though we are working on a public art plan. And we do hope to have funding specifically dedicated to public art sometime here in the near future. But unfortunately, your request cannot solely be for public art without an event tied to it. Unfortunately, we cannot fund education programs, workshops, and/or youth programs. We know that arts education is important and valuable, but we cannot fund it through project support. If there is a small educational part of the overall project, for example, let's say you're a film festival, it would totally be okay to bring in a filmmaker to host a workshop, as long as the main focus, the film festival, is not dedicated to educational programming in its entirety. It's also okay to have a component of youth in your program. For example, the Nutcracker has some kids involved alongside adult performers and dancers. A youth program only with kids is not eligible, no after-school programs, as they are typically not broadly open to the public. We also cannot fund arts therapy programs or projects that primarily use the arts as a tool to raise awareness. For example, a local organization that works in studio with artists who have mental and physical disabilities. While they may host monthly art exhibitions, the broad public does not typically attend those events. It's mostly family, friends, and caregivers, and it may not be considered open to the public. And lastly, we cannot fund projects that primarily feature, support, or fund one individual artist. Let's spread the wealth and let's get creative. You want to be thinking about how you can bring other members of the community in. So is there a team behind the projects that you're producing? And how are you selecting the professional artists that are taking place with this project? Write these dates down. These are very important dates to remember. This is the timeline section of the guidelines. Project support only opens once a year, so your application will be for events taking place between June 2026 and June or July 2027, give or take. Keep in mind that you can wrap an entire year's worth of programming into your application so long as each individual event is eligible. And then since you won't be notified of your award until May 29th, 2026, this is why projects must start at the earliest, June 1st of this year. You will have about a year to use the funds, and the dates in your application should reflect the dates that your events are open and closed to the public. I highly recommend that you submit prior to the February 17th deadline so that we can assist with any technical issues that may arise. Applications will close in the application portal at 5 p.m., and we will not be in office to assist you with any technical problems, late submissions, or submissions outside of the application portal. Your final report will also be due 30 days following the project end date, which is when you will also receive the remaining 50% of your payment. 50% upfront after the grant agreement has been signed, and then 50% after the final report has been submitted. We'll talk again about that when we go into steps after you've been awarded, but the important thing to note here is the January 16th opening, that's this Friday, and then the closing on February 17th by 5 p.m. So moving on to the application process, this is what the home screen of Smart Simple looks like. This is our application portal, and it's where both individuals and organizations will apply for our programs. So you can find it at gcac.smartsimple.com. The application portal is also usually linked within a bronze-colored button embedded within the guidelines and on our website. So if you've had an account with Smart Simple before and haven't been logged in a while, you can click on the Forgot Password button to reset the login information. And then if you're new to the system, you can click Register here to the right. Let's click on Register here. Clicking on that, it will then ask you if you're an individual artist, a business, or a nonprofit organization. Once you've selected that you're a nonprofit organization, you will then need to search the IRS database using your EIN and your organization's name. So if you run into any errors when registering, like let's say you're a new nonprofit, you might not be populating in the IRS database just yet. So you can go ahead and reach out to me. Please supply your 501c3 designation letter, and I'll go ahead and try and find a workaround so that you can have access to the system. Once you're logged in, this is what your dashboard will look like. It is much easier to navigate the system on a desktop or a laptop rather than by tablet or by phone. We do have a computer lab here in office that you can utilize if needed. We also just ask that you reach out and set up an appointment so that we can reserve this resource for you, as it is first come, first served. When you're logged in, you'll want to ensure that your profile information is updated, because that is how we will get in touch with you, make press releases, and more. It's super important that this information is updated as things change within your organization. So circled on the left where it says profile requires updating, that's where you can update your personal profile, your information as an individual. And then to the right of that, you'll see the organization profile, and that's where you can update information related to your organization. If multiple people from your organization are going to be accessing your application, it's very important that each individual has their own login for Smart Simple. Any open grant and funding opportunities will then be found to the right of organization profile. It's like a little acorn icon, and it's circled here on the right. Once we click on grant and funding opportunities, you will see project support is listed there with the deadline of February 17th. Go ahead and click on Apply Now to start the application. And then if you happen to receive this alert or this error message, it is typically because you most likely have already started a project support application. So if this is the case, go ahead and click on OK, and then scroll down on your dashboard to where it says Applications/Forms in Progress. Underneath Applications/Forms in Progress, you will see a project support application that is currently in draft status. Go ahead and click on Open to continue working. As you work on the application, be sure to click on Save Draft as you fill out each tab here at the bottom left of the screen. You can also work in a Word document elsewhere and copy and paste your answers into the system. Saving draft is just a great way to ensure that your progress has been saved, and it's always a good practice to have your answers backed up somewhere as well. To invite a grant reader to collaborate on your application, you'll click on the button below to the right of Save Draft and to the right of Next, where it says Invite Grant Writer. You'll be asked to enter the grant writer's name, email address, and you'll select grant writer as their role and then click the Invite button. So maybe someone is helping out, donating time, or maybe you've hired a grant writer. When you select this, they will only have access to this grant specifically, rather than your entire organization's account in our system. This is where you will talk about your project, the title, how much you're requesting, detailed project plans, and a full schedule of activities. Keep in mind that we do accept tentative plans. Here's a list of the application questions and uploads that you'll find for project support. We will ask you to describe your project in detail. This is where you will write as if the person reading the application knows nothing about the activities you're planning. We always say to give like a 360 view of your organization and your programming. So just remember that this panel is nationally selected, so a lot of the folks won't be familiar with organizations local to Franklin County and Columbus. We will ask you to upload a full schedule of project activities and event locations. We'll ask for your project start and end dates, and we'll ask for projected total public attendees for all activities. You will not include participating artists or volunteers. And then we'll ask you if the project is free to the public. If yes, what is the anticipated ticket price or price range, and how many tickets will be donated to reach underserved community members. We'll ask you about your projected number of artists being paid through this project, and out of those artists being paid, we'll ask for the number of artists that reside in Franklin County. We'll also ask how many volunteers participated in the planning and execution of your project, as well as how many volunteer hours will be donated for this project. approximations are okay. Moving on to the budget section of your application, this is where it will require you to click on Add/Update Budget. That is the brown button that we have circled here on the left. This is where you will enter the projected income and expenses for your project. So please estimate these costs off of your own research. After adding or updating budget entries, click on Save Draft to update the display on the screen. As you work on your budget, you will add individual line items for project revenue. This is including earned revenue and contributed revenue and your project expenses. So earned revenue includes ticket sales, concession, and merchandise. Contributed revenue includes donations, sponsorships, other grants, and government funding. In 2026, all applicants will be required to demonstrate a 20% cash match, which may include earned income, contributed income, or funds from the organization. So for example, if an organization requests $10,000 from GCAC, they must show project revenue of at least $12,000. So that's $10,000, the request from GCAC, and $2,000 funding from other sources. Essentially, we want to see that you're investing some of your own money too. So this indicates that your organization is invested in the project, and it reduces your risk as partial funding and smaller awards are common and to be expected in project support. No in-kind revenue or expenses should be included in your project budget. There will be an optional section in the narrative to discuss in-kind support, but in-kind donations cannot be included in the cash match either, such as volunteer time or donated goods. Under your project expenses, we'll ask for your staff, personnel, contractors, and artists paid, venue expenses, exhibit, production, performance expenses, and marketing and promotional expenses, as well as administrative and anything else. Most projects do receive a partial award of $3,000 to $8,000, as we mentioned earlier, and no projects will be fully funded, so please expect to secure additional funding outside of GCAC. The actual amount that you will receive will be based on the project budget and also the committee's score. Regarding demographic data, basic demographic information is collected in Smart Simple. Organizations are required to report on the demographics of their staff and board of directors, and we view data collection as an essential tool to our arts community and our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. By identifying who is not being represented or empowered, we can make investments that ensure access to the arts for all. In the upload section, you'll see the mandatory uploads at the very top. This is where we're looking at your current profit and loss statement, which is also known as a statement of activities or your income and expense statements. This just helps us see what's going on financially currently within your organization. Below, you will also include your current board of trustees, staff, and project or committee list, and each person's role in the project. All support materials must be uploaded digitally to the application portal. We cannot accept submissions outside of Smart Simple. The optional supplemental materials that we'll ask for, this you can include if they're available and if they're relevant to your application. This is your past fiscal year profit and loss statement with budget and year-end totals, a most recently filed 990, marketing plan and or marketing samples, and also links to current or past media coverage and any artistic work sample materials that you'd like to share. If you're a first-time applicant and you've never applied to project support before, you will also need to submit the following under the Other Materials Upload section, and that includes proof of your 501c3 status and also brief organizational history. On the left-hand side of the application in Smart Simple, you can also click on Notes. Just click the plus button where it says New Note and to start writing a note to the grant staff. You can also reach out to us directly at grants@gcac.org. After adding your note, just be sure to click Save when you're ready so that it comes to us internally. So after you submitted your applications and uploaded materials will be reviewed by grant staff to ensure that they're complete and meet eligibility requirements. So incomplete applications may look like short sentence answers or missing information. Project support will also utilize a national panel made up of 25 nonprofit administrators, community arts leaders, and discipline-specific experts alike. Applications will be scored up to a total of 40 points based on the following. The first section is access to the arts for all. So to us, access means the ability of all people to have the opportunity to experience, create, and or work in the arts in Central Ohio, regardless of their gender identity, ethnic or racial background, zip code, physical or mental disabilities, languages spoken, social class, or economic resources. So here's where you want to think about the diversity of our city and who you're hoping to reach with this project. You'll tell us everything you know about your current audience and any new audiences that you'd like to reach. We do ask you to be as specific as possible. You can utilize bullet points or numbered lists, and the more detail, the better. Remember, don't assume that the person reviewing your application will know your organization and or your project, as it is a national panel. And this is where you will also tell us about your marketing plan and any collaborations or partnerships you may have. Second, that is artistic vision and artist engagement. So what makes you excited about this project? This is where you'll discuss artistic risk-taking and any new tools, methods, or approaches that you'll use. We are not evaluating how well you paint, dance, or perform, but we are looking that you are committed to the artists you're hiring and the overall quality and impact of the event. So just think about what makes this project special to you. Remember that professional artists must be paid through project support, so you will also talk about who you are hiring for this project, how are they selected, how artist compensation is determined and demonstrated, and you'll also include a payment range in this section as well. Lastly, we'll be looking at project management and project budget. This is where we will look at the budget in relation to your proposed project. So have you thought about the entirety of the project? Is there a designated plan, and are we confident that it will happen? I do suggest starting with a separate document for your budget so you can implement your research and work outside of the system to track any progress. And numbers in your budget should be realistic and should support your proposed events across the entire application. After you're awarded, a grant agreement specifying the terms of the grant will be available in the application portal by clicking the Contracts to Complete button, as we have shown down below. Grantees will receive 50% of their grant award following the receipt of a digitally signed grant agreement, and then the remaining 50% will be paid following receipt and approval of your final report. Final reports are due 30 days following completion of your grant period, as indicated in your grant agreement. And to complete the final report, you'll log into SmartSimple and click on Reports to Complete. We have an upcoming in-person workshop this Friday, same day the applications open. It'll take place here at the GCAC office from 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. You can find information about our workshops by clicking for organizations and heading to workshops and events, visiting the GCAC calendar, and also register for workshops by clicking on the workshop specifically from the listing. And that's it for this workshop. I hope that you feel free to reach out to me if you do have any questions. My personal contact is kcar@gcac.org, but you can also reach the entire grants team at grants@gcac.org. Thank you and good luck with your application.